Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today with ZSuite Technologies. Our focus today is talking through what commercial clients are really expecting from their bank in the vein of ZSuite and our ZEscrow product. So we're really excited to host this webinar today. And welcome you all here for the conversation. Please know that the chat is open. So while we're talking through the content, if you've got any questions, please make sure you put those in the chat, and then we'll be sure to answer those at the end of the webinar. And so we can get to all of your questions that way. So with that, let's go ahead and kick off the conversation. Today's webinar will be facilitated by myself. I am Jill Feiler, and I am the CEO of ZSuite Technologies. I am also joined by Brian Willis, who is our Chief Client Officer here at ZSuite Technologies. And he will be introducing a special guest that we're having join us today to have a really good conversation around this topic of commercial clients and how we can satisfy all of their needs through product and technology. So just before we get started into that interview, I want to give you guys just a little bit of background of who we are. And basically, from our perspective, we are providing technology services via our platforms, ZEscrow and ZRent, to our bank partners to help them drive deposit acquisition to their banks in the form of specialty deposits. So I'll get into a little bit about what we mean by that, but just to kind of set the stage of who we are, we currently have over 100 banking partners across the United States, and we currently are headquartered in 31 states. The branch network spans a little bit further than that, but wanted to start with a little bit of background of who we are and who we partner with. So when I talk about driving that deposit acquisition, the main way that we partner with our commercial banks is to be able to help them with very specific deposit specialty markets and vertical specialization. And so the main crux of that is via escrow accounts and sub-accounting. The way to really think about that in a very simplistic way is that what our ZEscrow platform helps facilitate is really any organization that you come across that that has a need for three-party accounts. When we're talking about three-party accounts, we're talking about the three parties being you as the commercial bank, your client as the organization that would like to bank with you, as well as their clients. So think about it this way, that it's any organization that is holding funds on behalf of someone else. Our platform can be utilized in the digital way for those organizations to be able to manage all of those three-party accounts in the form of escrow accounts or sub-accounts, where they can facilitate digitally opening, closing, and managing all of those accounts on the ZEscrow platform. And so what we know those third parties look like is in this kind of vertical market opportunity. So what we're showing you, if you take a look at the big yellow kind of triangles there, is that is the largest use cases that is utilizing ZEscrow today in the form of property management. And so that's specifically in the form of tenant security. So if we go back to thinking about those three-party accounts, right, it's property managers who are banking with you, and they're holding funds in the form of tenant security accounts on behalf of their tenants. If you think about 1031 exchanges, which is another bucket that you see here, that is qualified intermediaries utilizing your bank to bring their deposits to, managing their 1031 exchanges on the platform so that they can facilitate holding those funds on behalf of their clients that are managing that tax transaction. Law firms is another big use case that we see on our platforms, where law firms are holding their retainer funds on behalf of their clients in the form of IOTAs or IOLTAs, and need a way to digitally open and manage those accounts with statementing and reporting and all of those necessities that they need to manage third-party accounts. You'll see other opportunities on the screen as well in terms of funeral homes with funeral escrow, real estate offices, title companies that also manage 1031 exchange. Municipalities is another huge use case that not only utilize an escrow platform to manage their escrow funds, but also the sub-accounting feature in order to segregate those funds into different spaces as they see fit within their municipality that they're managing. Nursing homes is another big use case. We're uncovering a lot of need in the nonprofit space to, again, segregate those funds, manage any escrow that is needed in the nonprofit space. To dive into that just a little bit further, wanted to give you some specifics about what we're seeing on the platform. So property managers, as we talked about, is a very large use case. And you'll see that an average balance there for property managers in a specific account for those organizations is about $70,000. The cost of funds for property managers is really low when they're managing their tenant security. We're seeing about 23 basis points when we're looking at all of that activity on the platform. We can move to law firms as well as IOLTA and IOTA accounts. Of course, in the law firm space, if we're taking and separating out the IOLTA and IOTA accounts, we're talking about estate management, we're talking about probate, we're talking about any custodial funds that potentially law firms would have to manage. Of course, those cost of funds are a little bit higher. You have to negotiate a little bit more. That's sitting at about 52 basis points. On average with what we're seeing on our platform today, where the cost of funds on IOLTA and IOTA accounts are just a little bit lower at 36 basis points. And of course, as you know, that's driven by each state board of what that interest rate is paid, because of course that interest is swept out to those state boards on a monthly basis. But then you can also see where the average balance of those full organizations on our platform sits, whereas a single property manager has an average balance of about 70,000. Of course, that's going to be higher or lower depending on residential real estate versus commercial. But then with the law firms separating out between IOLTA and typical escrow accounts with attorneys, those average balances are really similar, just in midway 350,000 about on an average perspective. So that gives you a little bit of background about who we are, what we're managing. And so at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Willis, who's going to talk to us a little bit more specifically about the client's reaction, the end user reaction for each one of some of those verticals that we talked about. So Brian, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. And thanks to everybody who's joined on the call. Really happy to be sharing, this part of our day with you. And yeah, just kind of want to, set up the main theme for the purpose of us talking today, which is, what are commercial clients really wanting from their bank or from their financial institution? And, I think that we can, safely say that times are changing at a rapidly, increasing rate. Every single day, it seems like we're needing to adapt to additional needs, not only from our clients, but also from the technical perspective of the different systems and the way that we're engaging with those clients. And I think that we probably saw that revolution, so to speak, earlier on, maybe on the retail side or the consumer side. And as it relates to the commercial banking segment, it's really no different. Those commercial clients of yours are looking for the same types of things that they're coming to expect from all other facets of their life. I can pick up my phone, or I can go into a restaurant, or I can even go to my gas station and I can have some sort of technology-driven experience that is shaping the way that I engage with that retailer or engage with the world that's around me. And so again, commercial banking is no different. Those clients are looking for self-service access, transparency to their information, and unique digital user experiences that make their lives easier and make their lives more efficient. One of the really cool things that I love about being on, in any sort of client-facing role is that, in that capacity, I get to work directly with you all from a client perspective and uncover those types of things and those needs that you're wanting, but also we then in turn also hear from your clients as a function of our business relationship. And so what Jill is showing here, on the slide is just some of the feedback that we've gotten from those different vertical types that we partner with you all on, and we provide sales support, and we listen to what those customers' needs are. Across these different vertical types, municipalities and 1031 exchanges, and they're all sharing that information with us here at ZSuite and with you all at the bank. And one of the other really cool things that I love about ZSuite is that from a company perspective, our goal is to make commercial banking easier. And so we really approach our day-to-day support and service model from that customer-centric lens. And it's not just, me and my team on the client success side, but it's our implementation team, our product team, our developers, our engineers, everyone across the organization as a whole is really focused on how can we make that experience, the best for you and for your clients. And so, really, don't want to, belabor, my own thoughts, as it relates to this topic. And that's a really good segue, if I say so myself, into sharing our guest speaker. And so would love to, introduce everybody to Jim Breish with Fulton Bank. Jim is going to share with us, some of that experience that they've had with the ZEscrow platform and with ZSuite at large. And as we just kind of have this conversation, first, I just want to say thanks, Jim, so much for joining us. I feel like, in some regard, I'm talking to a rock star. Everyone at ZSuite that I know that is engaged with you from any sort of capacity, either in implementation or post-launch, loves you to death. And so I really appreciate you joining us. And so as we kind of kick it off here, Jim, if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing with us a little bit about what your role there is at Fulton Bank and your experience, et cetera.
Great. Thank you, Brian and Jill, for allowing me to join today. And it has been a pleasure working with ZSuite this past year that we've been live. Next week, we're live for 1 year in production. So we are very happy about that. So as Brian said, I'm with Fulton Bank. I've been here for about 7 years. I'm the senior product manager for escrow here at the bank, and I have over 35 years of banking experience. So I've played the whole gamut of the financial process through banking. Started out in the branches and worked my way up into the cash management and then into product. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jim. And I'm just going to, jump right in then. I think that, your experience in the banking industry, is one of the main reasons we wanted you to join. And thanks again. As we think back to your, pre-ZSuite times, as y'all were, looking at those commercial clients that you were managing or looking to, bring on board from your sales pipeline, what were some of the things that maybe you were hearing in your markets and maybe from your, your regional, commercial banking managers?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things we were really hearing is with that platform that we were using prior to ZSuite, we had a very manual process. Customers were not able to really access it digitally or to be able to do things online. They had to go to our financial centers. They had to do through fax. So, they really wanted an option to do things to make their life easier, to really be able to walk through a digital process and be able to manage a lot of it on their own. They had to come into the financial center to open up and close the accounts. They had, they separate centers when it's for something. So there's, they were just really looking for different options that we were able to, that we were not able to provide.
Awesome. And, Jim, I made a note, earlier this week, you all are using our platform across 10 different business vertical types, which is super impressive. And so y'all are, really kind of distributing it out very well, and going after a large number of different industry verticals. Would you maybe share anything specific to something like the municipality space or the 1031 space or the property management space that prior to ZSuite y'all were hearing that your current operations or processes weren't specifically handling for them?
Yeah. So prior to ZSuite, that process, we were really offering it only to our property managers and to the municipality, local governments for some items that they had. And because of all the different options that we do have available through ZSuite with the different verticals, we were able to really go out and attack some of those areas and say, we do have this available for our customers now that in a certain vertical that it does make sense. Our property managers are still our top piece of business with the escrow, but the complexity and variety that you have, it's just unlimited in my opinion as to what we can really offer to our clients from different verticals.
Was there ever like a sort of a tipping point for what made you all start to investigate into technology solutions or a platform like ZSuite? In a lot of cases, we will hear about I've got a very large property manager that is a $20 million, right, in terms of just a deposit relationship alone, and they're really asking for that. But was there ever any sort of like that one specific moment that you could kind of point to that made y'all start evaluating vendors like us?
Yeah, Fulton has been for years trying to really think about how we can improve our escrow product. And about 2 years ago, it really took some momentum through leadership and with obviously the low cost core deposits that the deposit escrow brings in. And we all know that commercial banks right now are really looking for those low cost core deposits. So we really recognized that we had to figure that out and how to assist and move forward with gaining some low cost core deposits. We recognized that there's the risk of losing clients that we couldn't offer this type of product to, that we had the manual process. And we really wanted to strengthen our relationships with our customers. And we may have had operating accounts with some of our customers, but we didn't have their escrow account balances because of our system not being able to accommodate. So we wanted to find a partner that we could that had the expertise and help us move forward to that point. And that's where I think we really are today with the ZSuite.
Awesome. Well, I'm probably going to want to dig into that just a little bit more. Can you share, like as you were doing that evaluation, because I know you were heavily involved in that process as well as with the implementation itself. What were some of those key things that stood out as it related to us, maybe versus other platforms that you were taking a look at?
Yeah, and we did look at several other platforms as well. And when it really came down to it, we like the partnership that we were able to see with ZSuite, not just the technology, but the simplistic design and an intuitive facet of the product that you offer. It just felt so intuitive and just really easy and accessible for anybody to use. I mean, honestly, our training sessions last 5 minutes, we'll say, because it's that easy to be able to go in and show a customer what they can do and how to utilize it. So that really helped us to be able to build some adoption, and especially with our customers that we migrated over. They were thrilled once we migrated them over and did that whole process with part of the implementation, which I have to say that your team was great with that, that whole process, that onboarding. I can't say we couldn't have gone any smoother in my opinion, but that's what really kind of stood out to us here at Fulton.
Awesome. Yeah, it's pretty amazing how many times I think I've heard when we've either been doing a demo with a bank and their prospective client, or hearing about winning that deal after the fact, where that prospective client was pretty hesitant to move over, didn't necessarily want to change their operations or processes, but then after the fact have ended up sharing, yeah, like I can't believe I wasn't doing this and in control of this all on my own from the get-go. So that's really great to hear. Can you share maybe a little bit more about, like, after now that you've been live for a year ish, what are some of those what are some of those sort of key takeaways in terms of what you're hearing from your internal staff at the bank in terms of addressing those needs versus your clients as well? Any feedback that you've gotten from them? What type of results that you'd be willing to share with us about that?
Sure. We have seen some increased growth in our deposits through existing customers who did not have their escrow with us. We've also been able to onboard a few other customers from other institutions that were not able to provide a service like ZSuite. We've had some really good successful stories over the past few months of really pushing that. Last year when we first launched, we did have a little bit of a slow period of launching. Nothing to do with ZSuite, but from some initiatives on the Fulton side. But since then, we've really been able to move forward and be able to do that. And, our clients are loving that they can open and manage the sub-accounts themselves, that they don't have to go to the financial center. They get real-time balances. They're reducing the amount of work that they're doing. From the bank's perspective, we are saving efficiencies on our end by not having to have our teams open and close accounts, create the accounts, do all the reporting, all of this processes that we were doing. And it's just really, in my opinion, has strengthened our relationship with both our customers and our internal teams that we deal with on a regular basis with this product. So, again, I think we've been able to move forward with a really good opportunity and to improve our position with our deposit escrow product.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Jim. It's great to hear, and I love hearing about not only the efficiencies for your clients, but also for you at the bank as well, because it is a two-sided coin there from that regard. So I think what I heard from the feedback that you shared is that making sure that you have the right partnerships, those can solve real problems, and making sure that we are built on a foundation of strong relationships with you and with your whoever that technology vendor is, and that's something that we absolutely want to make sure that we're always putting our best foot forward on from the ZSuite side as well. So Jim, anything else that you might want to share before we kind of wrap up? I don't want to throw any sort of curveballs at you here. There's a lot of questions that I could probably do that, but I'm not going to do that to you. But yeah, anything else that you'd want to share?
I think for the institutions that are out there listening, really listen to your clients of what they're looking for, and how you can potentially get ahead of the curve. I think that with Fulton, we're one of the first to kind of in our area to be able to offer this type of product, and being that leading edge technology and that leading edge provider of that. So listen to the clients, what they're looking for, and go out and find the right company, tech partnership that you may have to solve those real client problems. That builds stronger relationships, for your institution, and your customers, your internal teams, and it's just really just a great way to help with the customer experience.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that, and feel free, of course, to hop in again, if you've got something that you want to tack on to anything else that I'm going to say here. But Jill, if you'd move forward there, perfect. So just kind of piggybacking off of what I think Jim very well kind of summarized there. Making sure that those strong relationships between you and your client, that's something that we are also extremely passionate about here at ZSuite, is making sure that we have a very strong relationship with you as a bank, and it's a part of our process. What we're looking at here, our client success support, we really want to look at it across the entire customer journey or client experience continuum for you as the bank. And so as we get out of an implementation pipeline, we want to make sure that you are married up with our success team so that we can talk through any of those goal setting. How can we help with that? Any internal product or sales strategy training that we can absolutely do for you. If you were a part of our earlier webinar this year in January, I think we shared, that we do a lot of demos with, our bank partners, where We did over 530 last year, and that's us sitting in on client calls or prospective client calls with you all, helping you walk that client through the process of what the platform is, how can it work, how can it meet their business needs, and then all the way through our own technical support and operational support as well. And so we really want to make sure that we're creating a really continuous spectrum of providing that great client support. And then how we incorporate that feedback from all of that support that we're that we're working with you on is directly related or reflected in the platform itself. And so all of that feedback that we talked about before, where we're getting that information back from those municipalities or those 1031s on any of those calls, or the information that you all at the bank are supplying to us about the client feedback that you're getting directly, goes directly into our product team, who is looking at how can we improve our platform on a continuous basis. And what we're seeing here on the screen is a direct reflection of listening to our 1031 clients, for example. The ability for us to split interest at a sub-account level at the time that the sub-account is created, to be able to split it differently from one sub-account to the next, is something that we released last year. But in a recent feature enhancement that we made to the platform over the last couple of weeks is now I can split it either as a percentage of the total pie of that rate that's being paid, or I could plug it in as a simple APR that's on my screen. I don't have to go and do any calculations on my own. And that's the type of feature enhancements that we're listening to and understanding that these are gonna, these types of system adjustments are gonna make people's lives easier and more efficient. And so just wanted to give an idea there of how our product team listens in conjunction with us here on the success side, listening to you all. And I think that's my last slide, isn't it, Jill?
It is. And I just
anything you want to add?
Yeah, just I think this last slide here, it Make Commercial Banking Easier and Thrive Together, really sums up this conversation. This is our mission here at ZSuite Technologies. It drives everything that we're doing. As you could see throughout this presentation, is we strive to make commercial banking easier for your sales team, for your operations team, for your treasury management team, and then of course your users of the technology, kind of wrapped all together. And then kind of weaving in the thriving together, really kind of what Brian was talking about with that client journey, is that we really make sure that we understand what your goals are. So are you driving for deposit acquisition? Are you driving for better efficiencies? And making sure that together as partners, you're seeing the success by utilizing the tool. And then of course we can celebrate together when we're seeing all of that success, especially as Jim spoke before. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then we can see here if we've got any questions in the chat, which we do not as of this point. Okay, so Renee Martin is asking, how do we sign up for a platform demo? The answer to that question is, if you would like to reach out to myself directly, we're happy to get you in front of the right people. And then we also have a way to request a demo via our website, zsuitetech.com. So I don't know, I can put my, how about if I put my email address in the chat? That might be helpful. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Shelby. There we go. Yeah, we'd love to show you a demo, Renee. Thanks for joining us today. What is the #1 vertical utilizing ZEscrow today? Property managers or QIs? And so Brian, do you want to speak to ZEscrow in general, and then maybe Jim, you can talk about your most effective vertical that you've seen thus far.
Yeah. So I would say for ZEscrow in general, we would kind of look at it in two different ways. Number one, vertical in what capacity, like total number of businesses using the platform versus deposits on the platform. So total number of businesses on the platform, property management, our platform was born out of the property management space. And our first year or two was solely focused on property management. And so we've got a little bit more lead time in terms of building up that vertical. But over the course of years, we've, configured the platform to be more of a general escrow. So ability to apply it to all different types of industry verticals. What I will say on the deposit side of the house is that our most growth from a deposit standpoint has really been in the 1031 space. Really large transactions in terms of volume of deposits. And that's where we're also seeing, quite a bit of, growth in terms of additive organizations as well as a percentage of that one vertical. So it's still not going to be, like 50% of total organizations, but as a function of organizational growth within the 1031 space, we have seen a 30% lift in 1031s that have been actively joining onto the platform over the course of the last 12 months or so. And so I would share that, in those two sort of like buckets there. Jim, anything that you'd want to add from the Fulton Bank side?
Sure, Brian, and actually I can, confirm that what you're saying is true. Our largest obviously is the property managers, and we have actually seen a tick up in the 1031s. Now, granted, that's usually short term, and you do pay usually higher cost of funds for those. However, by building a pipeline and having them continuously, it still helps your deposit balances grow by keeping a consistent balance of 1031s in there. So yes, those two are really our top, I would say. The ZEscrow for the property managers is the top, but 1031s is starting to take lift.
Nice. I do think it's worthwhile within that conversation. We do have a couple more questions coming in. But Carla, I think it's worthwhile also to talk about the retention factor that the platform brings. And so, once the organizations are on, and let's say, use property management as an example, bringing their tenants on board to manage their tenant security accounts, they're not leaving. And so it's not only a really great tool for deposit acquisition and driving efficiencies, it's also a really great tool for retention of those commercial clients that you've worked so hard to bring on board. Okay, so Carla, thank you for that question. Diana, hi Diana, has a question here. We only have attorneys and property managers. Do you offer any tools for selling to other verticals?
Yeah.
Brian, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm putting in the chat right now, Diana. Here's one thing that I think you can probably start off with that's going to be a good resource. On our site, we have this webinar section where we have recordings on municipalities, 1031 exchanges, attorneys. We also have downloadable assets that will target specifically, like what are those organizations looking for? What are they typically struggling with? What are some of the ways that you can think through, like the sort of the value or the sales, or sorry, the needs-based approach, questions for, going after those clients. And then I would also just say, Diana, anytime that you would want to have a discussion about sales strategy around any of the verticals, because, on the webinars, we only have like 4 of them on there. But if you ever wanted to have, a conversation, you can absolutely reach out to us here on the success side. I know you know where we're at, so you can reach out to myself or Donna or anyone else on the success team, and we'll be happy to, to hop on a call and talk through that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next question, Carla. Thanks for another question. Are the property managers just managing security deposits through ZEscrow, or is there another another look there. And then additionally from that, what is the size of the property management firms?
Yeah, so from ZEscrow in general, I would say that yes, by and large, they are just managing those security deposits. Of course, that doesn't mean that someone can't create a sub account to manage something else, but almost all cases, it's going to be those tenant security deposits that they're managing. Size of the property management firms, it's varied, but what we would say is that ZEscrow has the ability to scale from a small mom and pop all the way up to a very large property management company who's might be managing hundreds of different doors. What we would probably see as the sweet spot for within our system, at least as far as the data looks like, it's probably somewhere in that 40 to 50 units on average. Although, like I said again, we do have some property management companies that are hundreds of sub accounts that are utilizing the system.
Yeah, and I just verified that with data, Brian. So you are spot on. Good job.
Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome.
Just to step in, sorry about that, Jill.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Just to step in, we have a variety of customers, as Brian said. We have some of the smaller mom and pop who maybe have 10, 15 properties that they're managing. We do have that ability. We have some that are managing, over 100 or larger than that. So it does scale very well, and that was one of the things that we wanted to have is the scalability. Because as we grow as an organization, we want to be able to scale this product as well and be successful. So yes, it does vary by the size of the property management firms, but it can be accommodating to any one of them.
Awesome. Thanks for that additional context.
Thank you, Jim.
Super helpful. Okay, another question for us, Diana. That was helpful. Thank you, Diana. Appreciate your question. And then we have a question coming in from Raymond, which is really great. What area of the bank typically owns the success of the product? Is it decentralized through the branches and lending areas, or centralized with a specific team? For example, treasury management sales. So I think, Brian, this is a great question to talk about what our experience is with all of our banks, but then specifically, this will be great to turn over to Jim, so Jim can talk about how he's seeing so much success with their organizational structure.
Yeah, for sure. So, what we typically see when it relates to success and clients that feeling like they're having success is usually it's going to be owned by a cash or treasury management team, and both from the operations and the sales side. And so I can't stress that enough, is that there's two different sides of the house that need to make this successful, and they need to be working together. And when we have good buy-in from both the operations and sales side from that treasury management team, that's where we really see a lot of the special sauce happen, for the platform. And that's because we've got more people who have more ownership, but also touch their client across their own internal bank client journey. And so that's where I would say that we see the best success in general. Jim, anything that you can share from your side?
Sure. And what we've seen here at Fulton is, our treasury sales officers are the ones that are responsible for the actual selling of the product once it comes through. But one of the key things, and even when we launched, was the education factor to our financial centers, our relationship managers, really making them aware of what the product can do and what options, because they're the ones out there really talking to the new customers and to the customers, and getting the needs that they have, and then coming back and relaying that information off to our treasury sales team. I think that's really worked well for us. Again, it's when you go and educate your teams to say, this is what we have to offer, and that they know the product. And they don't have to know the ins and outs of every little piece of it. It's just the general ability. And then they can turn it over to one of the treasury sales officers. And that seems to have worked well for us as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that context. Yeah. Appreciate it. And it looks like at this time, we have answered all of the questions in the chat. If anyone has any more, please feel free to type a message. Otherwise, What will happen post this conversation is we will send out a copy of the slides that we utilized during the presentation so that you have that. Of course, there's some helpful content within the chat that Brian shared with the webinar link, as well as Shelby shared if you're looking to schedule a demo. And so that is helpful for you to move forward with the conversations. And looks like we got a thank you from Casey. You're welcome. And I think that is it for the day. So we really, really appreciate you joining us. What a great use of time. And Jim, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being part of the conversation here today. We really appreciate the partnership and helping us educate future ZSuite clients.
Thank you as well for letting me join you today.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome, Janine. Welcome, Denise. And Amanda. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you all soon.